firstly, thank you so much for your time. Let's just start macro. So, West Africa, Senegal, Dakar, Côte d'Ivoire, it's still relatively unknown for the broader market.
Yeah.
People are obviously quite aware of the top four, Lagos, Kenya, South Africa.
Yeah.
How would you start? How would you introduce this part of the world from a tech investment ecosystem perspective?
Oh man. Usually I say this. Once you take out the top four markets in Africa, everything else is pretty similar. Half of it is Francophone, the other half is Anglophone. So don't underestimate the Francophone part. It's 400 million people. Like all African cities, they're all coming online.
Sure.
Startups are popping up everywhere. There is the same economies in mobility and logistics, in commerce, everywhere that benefit hugely from digitizing. So the opportunity is the same. The question is, why are we not seeing yet African startups from this region emerge on the global scene?
Sure.
But the opportunity is definitely there.
It is there, and I think, for me personally, it's definitely opened my eyes. I've been to all the other regions, first time in Dakar, and the perception has definitely shifted. And I think what's so great though, especially with this country, we were in the unconference the other day where we had the minister sitting in and getting involved, and whether we agree on government's procedures or regulations, or it's the first time that we've been in a region where somebody's been so hands-on, which has been fantastic. And it just seems, similarly to what Paul Kagame is doing in Rwanda, the government's very involved in enabling that. Do you think that private sector could play a bigger role as well?
Absolutely. So actually, I'll step back a bit on what's going on, I think, in Dakar, and also happening probably in these other West African countries and all the way to Cameroon. You have a pool of talent that is quite strong. This is something that can be easily overlooked because they don't speak English. But a pool of software engineers that is really strong. Dakar is a city that is full of schools. People come from all over the region to study in Dakar. And all of these students, come out skilled and ready to work, and entrepreneurship plays a huge role in absorbing these people in the workforce. And everybody is aware of this, the private sector as well as the government. So it's no wonder that the government is there next to you, is hands-on, and trying to foster and support entrepreneurs, because we are having this huge pool of young talent that you need to put to work, otherwise it becomes something else unpleasant. And a lot of governments around here are also just coming to terms with the fact that these tech startups are not just some side phenomena. That it's something that is attracting significant attention to their countries. They love that attention. It's attracting significant investment. The way VC investment has been growing compared to private equity is the same everywhere. And so it's becoming significant as investment. So they're looking at it. And so that's what's driving government. Now, should private sector be involved? Private sector will be involved if they see money for them in it, right? I keep saying that what we are missing probably is that founding event where an investment by some angel or a private company into this tech startup scene pays off beautifully, and it becomes the new, and the next day everybody wants in. We have not had that yet. So for now, you can see a few big corporates like Orange getting involved. You can see a few angels, and keep in mind that in the Francophone space, angel investment is not in the culture. But we are already seeing a few angels getting in. I think we just need that spark, that startup. And if you look at the pool of early stage startup right now, I think that spark is nearly here. That one company that will just go ballistic and everybody is regretting not putting money in it, so that the next day two things happen. Everybody have their check out and are looking for a company to invest, and every good talent sitting in a corporate is thinking this could be me.
It's true. I do feel that spark, or the energy is here. It's a intangible thing that you feel being in the city, being within this ecosystem. You've been to a lot of these. What do you think are the kind of the components that are missing or that we need more of in this particular sector to help it catalyst? You know, like
that's an easy question. It's seed money.
Yeah.
I invest in Series A. So Partech, we invest in Series A and B. So venture.
Okay.
We invest in startups when they have something like 1 million revenue, they have the market validated. And so far we've invested in 15 companies, only one in Senegal.
Okay, wow.
And so people nag me a lot about this, but the bottom line is there is not enough startups coming to Series A because there are not enough startups getting seed funding.
Sure.
And it's not for lack of market. There is a huge demand for seed funding across Africa, but especially in this region. Even more so as it's harder for somebody from Abidjan or Dakar or Bamako to fly into Silicon Valley and get a check.
Sure.
There are language barriers, there are cultural barriers, there are a lot of barriers. So local seed money sitting on the ground that knows and understands these people, that get through the cultural barrier and can see the gems that are out there would be transformation. And I think it would unlock this potential we are sitting on. I mean, look around you. Look at the startups you saw today. The entrepreneurs are good. The problems that they are solving are foundational to our economy.
Sure.
They will build great startups. Nobody else will build them for them. So seed money is for me the missing piece.
Okay.
I know I'm preaching for my interest here. It sounds like that, but I think beyond that, there is more of a personal component. I've been an entrepreneur in this region. I've started and failed to start up in the region. And I keep telling people that actually entrepreneurs from this region will always fund their startup. They'll bootstrap it. They'll do consulting on the side and fund it. Eventually they'll get there. But it's going to take them 5 to 6 years. So we are wasting resources. We are wasting years of entrepreneurship. And that is a precious and important resource.
Totally.
Seed money would shorten that period from 5 years to 1 year. They will validate their project and get to the next stage. So it's actually a human tragedy we are talking about here. So this is why I'm passionate about it. It's definitely not about self-interest.
Where do you think we're going to? Where do we find that seed money though? Where's it going to come from? Everyone says the same thing. We need more money. We need more seed money. We need more seed money. No matter where we go. Africa, South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, all the same. We need more seed money. Where do you think that?
So I think we need to look at what are the barriers to seed funds right now. If you're trying to raise a seed fund in the region right now, it's probably your first fund. So you're what they call a first-time fund. Okay, and that is a huge barrier with all the institutional investors who fund. So this is the barrier that governments and DFIs are the best positions to unlock. Because they can actually enable these first-time funds, be anchor investors, allow them to raise half of the fund from them, half of the fund from private sector, so that they can prove themselves. Because the next time around, guess what? They don't need that money anymore because they have track record. But that barrier you have here at this event today, at least 4 teams I know that are raising seed funds. I know these guys. They are outstanding. They are entrepreneurs. They're experienced. They know Africa. They know tech. They will make great investors. But they've never raised a fund before. So everybody's looking at them going, I don't know, first-time team. And if you look at what happened in Europe, this was the same, by the way, in France for a very long time. Until the French BPI 10 years ago went all out and seeded a lot of seed funds. And they seeded like 100 of them. And in turn, these guys went and invested in thousands of startups. That's French tech today. So we need to create our French tech. And this is where Dare, here, you are hosting this event with, plays a role. You know, they have budget, they're investing in startups, but they also can invest in other seed funds and enable the ecosystem. I think this is a call out to, IFC, the World Bank, the African Development Bank. These institutions can and should support these first-time seed funds.
It's so poignant because I think it was Matsi Modise who said in a podcast that we interviewed of her in Cape Town, she said everyone else has got a plan for Africa except Africa. And it's so true. I think it's time that Africans had their own plan, and I think it's slowly starting to sink in, and people are getting there, and they're getting it because, the impact in Africa when you invest in an entrepreneur, even if it fails or succeeds, okay, of course we always want it to succeed, but the impact that it has on families, communities, it's unparalleled compared to the rest of the world.
there is one when I talk about this impact, there is one example I like to give. Merchants.
Yeah.
Think about commerce across Africa. It's mostly run by these small informal merchants.
Sure.
95% of FMCG, for instance, they're informal, fragmented, not registered, they don't have access to credit, and the logistics for them are super inefficient. Like, this speaks to me. This is all problems that digital can solve. You know, you digitize them, logistics become more efficient. You have transactional data, you can give them funding. This whole commerce works better, and it impacts everybody because, you know, prices of goods will come down. They will be more available to everybody. And all of these people, they're the backbone of African economies. They're the heads of families. They'll pay school fees with it. They'll pay for health with it. Think about how many, tens of millions of merchants really. And if you look at what fintechs are doing, they're going after these merchants. Whether it's an agent network, it's the merchants that are becoming agents. If it's, you know, POS platforms, they're going after these merchants. B2B marketplaces, Jumia marketplace, all of these are building on this. And I like to say that, you know, when you take a lot of fragmented informal players and bring them on a platform, a digital platform, you create something organized. They're not going to become formal, but they'll become organized and efficient because they will digitize. And it's happening actually. And so this is, for me, the biggest and hottest opportunity in Africa and the biggest array of impact I can see.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. There are so many. And, you know, I was speaking to a startup today who was pitching, and you know, they've been doing, I think, $50 or $60 million just getting, you know, selling African products to the world, you know, and people want them. People think, oh no, who's going to want it? I mean, it's amazing. Like, you'll have a person who's doing
like people making craft, a lot of arts. If I'm allowed to name call, I was talking recently to AfricArena, a startup from Côte d'Ivoire that's like started off calling themselves Etsy for Africa. Okay, we'll put the goods online and we'll help them sell. And I talked to him like a few years later, and he's telling a whole completely different story. He says these African artisans and craftsmen, they don't need people to sell for them. Everybody wants their goods already. They want somebody to help with the transaction and the logistics.
Totally.
So the goods will sell if I create for them a platform that allows them to easily sell it. The goods will sell because people want it.
For sure.
So I liked that perspective because all of a sudden what he's saying is that there is demand for that. He doesn't need to go and market it. He just needs to help get it there.
Totally.
And I tell people we need the Alibabas for Africa.
Totally.
Alibaba Express who will sell our goods to the whole world because we are making goods.
Do you think Africa will ever come together, or will always be fragmented?
I think it will be in some aspects fragmented always, and that's okay. Because actually for some businesses, it's not really about, even if you look at a big business like Uber, it's not a global operation, it's a city by city operation. And so think about Africa as a list of cities starting at 15 million population, going down to a few 100,000. There are a lot of these cities. They have very similar characteristics. You can replicate a lot of these things across the board. So in that sense, you can scale a business across Africa. Of course, you'll be working through different regulation zones. You'll be working through different language barriers and all that. But again, because our markets are fragmented, this is something that African entrepreneurs learn to do very early. Very early. I remember running a stat a few years back where half of African startups that were raising were already into markets.
Wow.
That's mind-boggling in Europe or in the US. You know, raising their first money they raise, they're already into markets because, you know, they have to learn to do this early. And that's a qualitative jump you do when you go from one market to the other. And then, you know, going from there to 10, 20 becomes more of a process and less of a challenge. I could go on this forever, but I just think, so one point though, I used to be the Silicon Valley type who said, a computer, some software, you build a scalable business.
Yeah.
Now I would nuance that. A computer, some software, and a very good operation.
Sure. Yeah, true.
You need ground game.
Yeah.
You need ground game, but
And
ground game is scalable. If it's done well, and if it's supported by the right tech, it is scalable. It scales. I know. I invested in a few of them.
Oh man, it's so exciting chatting to you and hearing some of your insights. You know, the more people we talk to, and that's the purpose of why we're doing this. You know, it's to change the narrative about Africa and what is actually happening on the ground, because we see such a thin slice on the likes of CNBC Africa and the likes of TechCrunch and the world. And it's such a privilege, and thank you for your time. If you were to leave people who are watching, listening, with a final thoughts or comments about this particular market in perspective, or anything in general, what would you like to leave them with?
I'll probably go for numbers. Listen, in 5 years, VC investment in Africa went from 200 million to $2 billion.
Wow.
No market has grown as fast.
Wow.
In the last Africa, we got our first unicorn very recently. We went from 1 to 5 unicorn in the space of 3 years. It took double that time for LATAM or for Asia to get there. In terms of number of deals, in the middle of the pandemic last year, when everybody was grounded,
Sure.
the number of deals grew 48%.
Yeah, we saw that in our report as well.
So that tells you that if you are thinking of the tech ecosystem in Africa, right now, it is the fastest growing tech ecosystem in the world, period. And we are far from the cap. It is going to be $10 billion per year in the next 5 years. I have no doubt. Every time I made such a prediction, it happened 2 years earlier than I expected. So I remember in 2016, I made this prediction that there was $360 million raised in Africa.
Yeah.
I made a prediction that we would get to 1 billion by 2020. It happened in 2018.
Wow.
And in 2019 it was 2 billion. So this market is growing faster than we all realize. And there's no better region right now to invest in tech.
Sure.
There's none other.
So cool. Thank you so much for your insights and your time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I will definitely touch base with you again soon.
Please.